Chapter 1. The mission begins in the deepest reaches of space. Far beyond the comfort of Earth's atmosphere, the crew of the spaceship Eclipse was on a routine mission. Their task was simple: explore a distant planet, gather data, and return home. Nothing out of the ordinary, just another day in the life of an interstellar explorer. Captain Emily Hargrove, a seasoned spacefarer with a sharp wit and an even sharper tongue, was at the helm. Her crew was a motley bunch, a collection of the best and brightest from various fields, each with their own quirks. There was Dr. Sam "Doc" Patterson, the brilliant but eccentric scientist who could never keep his lab coat clean. Lieutenant Jake "Joker" Reynolds, the ship's pilot with a love for bad jokes and a fear of nothing. And Lieutenant Ava Chun, the quiet and calm communications officer, who was the glue holding them all together. As the Eclipse neared its destination, the planet Zoran 5, the crew was in high spirits. They had spent weeks in the cold vacuum of space, and the idea of setting foot on solid ground, no matter how alien, was a welcome change. "All right, team," Captain Hargrove's voice crackled over the ship's intercom. "We're approaching Zoran 5. Prepare for landing. And remember, we're here for data collection, not sightseeing. So no wandering off." "Ah, come on, Cap," Joker grinned. "What's the point of exploring alien worlds if we can't do a little sightseeing?" "Sightsee all you want after we finish the mission," Hargrove shot back, though there was a hint of a smile in her voice. "But first, let's get down there and see what this rock is all about." As the ship descended through the atmosphere, the crew was greeted by a landscape unlike anything they had ever seen. Zoran 5 was a planet of contrasts. Its surface was a mix of rocky plains, strange metallic structures, and dense, shadowy forests. The air was thick with a greenish mist that gave everything an eerie glow. "Landing site secured," Joker announced as the Eclipse touched down with a gentle thud. "Welcome to Zoran 5, folks. Please keep your hands and feet inside the vehicle at all times." The crew chuckled, but there was an undercurrent of tension. They had explored many strange planets before, but there was something different about this one, something that set their nerves on edge. "All right, let's get this over with," Hargrove said, unbuckling her seatbelt. "Doc, you're with me. Joker, Ava, keep an eye on the ship. We'll be back in a few hours." As they stepped out onto the planet's surface, the eerie silence was the first thing that struck them. There were no signs of life, no birds, no insects, not even the wind seemed to stir. The only sound was the crunch of their boots on the rocky ground. "Creepy place," Doc muttered, adjusting his scanner. "Let's make this quick. I don't like the feel of it." "Agreed," Hargrove nodded. "Let's head towards those structures. They might give us some clues about this planet." As they made their way across the barren landscape, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every shadow seemed to move. Every rock seemed to hide a secret. But they pressed on, driven by their curiosity and the need to complete the mission. What they found would change everything. Chapter 2. The discovery: the structures they had seen from the ship were massive, tall, dark monoliths that rose from the ground like jagged teeth. Up close, they were even more imposing, their surfaces smooth and cold to the touch, with strange symbols etched into the metal. "This is incredible," Doc whispered, his eyes wide with awe. "These markings, they're like nothing I've ever seen. They don't match any known language. Can you make anything out of them?" Hargrove asked, her voice tinged with impatience. "Not yet," Doc admitted, "but I'm working on it." As they examined the monoliths, a low hum began to fill the air, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to come from within the structures themselves. "Do you hear that?" Hargrove asked, her hand instinctively moving to her sidearm. "Yeah," Doc replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's coming from inside." Before they could react, the ground beneath their feet began to shake. The monoliths vibrated with the same hum, and suddenly, a door slid open in the side of the nearest structure. Hargrove and Doc exchanged a glance, part excitement, part fear. "We should go back," Doc suggested, though his curiosity was clearly piqued. "Get the others." "No time," Hargrove replied, already moving towards the door. "We need to see what's inside. Stay close." With a mixture of dread and anticipation, they stepped into the darkness. Chapter 3. The encounter: the interior of the monolith was even more alien than the outside. The walls were lined with strange, pulsating lights, and the air was thick with the hum of machinery. It was as if the entire structure was alive, breathing, and watching them. "Doc, stay alert," Hargrove whispered, her senses on high alert. But as they ventured deeper into the structure, the hum grew louder, and the lights became more erratic. It was as if the monolith was reacting to their presence, becoming agitated. Then, without warning, the lights went out. "Cap." Doc's voice was filled with panic. "I'm here," Hargrove replied, reaching for her flashlight. But before she could turn it on, the lights flickered back to life, revealing something that made her blood run cold. Standing before them were three creatures, tall, gaunt, and covered in pale, leathery skin. Their eyes were large and black, devoid of any emotion, but their mouths were twisted into snarls that revealed rows of razor-sharp teeth. The aliens were angry. "Doc, run!" Hargrove shouted, but it was too late. The creatures lunged at them with terrifying speed, their claws slashing through the air. Hargrove barely had time to draw her weapon before she was knocked to the ground, the air forced from her lungs. "Cap!" Doc screamed, fumbling for his own weapon, but one of the aliens was already on him. Its claws inches from his face. In the chaos, Hargrove managed to get off a shot, the laser beam hitting one of the creatures square in the chest. It let out a horrifying screech and recoiled, but it didn't fall. Instead, it seemed to become even more enraged. "Doc, we need to get out of here," Hargrove yelled, pulling herself to her feet. But there was no way out. The door they had entered through was sealed shut, and the creatures were closing in. "Think, Emily, think," she muttered to herself, her mind racing. They were outnumbered, outmatched, and out of options. Then, just as all seemed lost, the monolith began to shake violently. The lights flashed in a chaotic pattern, and the hum reached a deafening pitch. The creatures froze, their heads snapping towards the center of the room where a large, circular platform began to rise from the floor. "What the hell?" Doc whispered, his eyes wide with terror. The platform continued to rise, revealing a massive, glowing orb at its center. The orb pulsed with energy, casting an eerie light over the room. The creatures hissed and backed away from the orb, their anger replaced by fear. Hargrove seized the opportunity. "Doc, now's our chance. Move!" They sprinted towards the orb, hoping it would provide some kind of escape. But as they reached it, the orb emitted a blinding flash of light, and they were suddenly engulfed in darkness. Chapter 4: The Unexpected Allies. When Hargrove and Doc opened their eyes, they found themselves in a completely different place. The room was no longer dark and menacing, but bright and sterile, like a laboratory. And standing before them was another alien. This one vastly different from the creatures they had just encountered. It was tall and slender, with a calm, almost serene expression on its face. Its skin was smooth and silver, and its eyes, though large and black like the others, were filled with intelligence and curiosity. "Welcome, travelers," the alien spoke, its voice resonating in their minds rather than their ears. "Do not be afraid. You are safe here." Hargrove and Doc exchanged a glance, still reeling from the sudden change in environment. Who are you?" Hargrove stammered, still holding her weapon, though she didn't raise it. "I am called Zephyr," the alien replied. "I am a guardian of this world, a protector of its secrets. You have encountered the Sentinels, creatures designed to defend our ancient technology. They mistook you for intruders." "Mistook us?" Doc asked incredulously. "They tried to kill us." "They are not perfect," Zephyr admitted, a hint of sorrow in its voice. "They were created long ago, and their programming has degraded over time. But you must understand, they only wish to protect what remains of our civilization." Hargrove slowly lowered her weapon. "Why are we here, Zephyr? What do you want from us?" Zephyr regarded them with those deep, black eyes. "We did not bring you here. You came on your own, driven by curiosity. But now that you are here, perhaps we can help each other." Doc frowned. "Help each other? How?" "The Sentinels are failing," Zephyr explained. "Without their protection, the technology they guard will fall into disrepair. If that happens, the knowledge of our people will be lost forever. We need your help to repair them, to restore the balance. Hargrove considered this. It was clear that they were in over their heads, but turning back wasn't an option. And what do we get in return? Zephyr's expression didn't change, but there was a sense of approval in its voice. In return, I will grant you access to our archives, knowledge that has been hidden from the universe for millennia. You will leave this place with wisdom beyond your years, and perhaps a deeper understanding of the cosmos. Doc's eyes lit up with excitement. Captain, this could be the discovery of a lifetime. Hargrove nodded, though she was still wary. All right, Zephyr. We'll help you. But if anything goes wrong, I assure you, Captain, Zephyr interrupted gently, you are in no danger here. Chapter 5. The repair. Over the next few days, Zephyr guided Hargrove and Doc through the process of repairing the Sentinels. It was delicate work, requiring a deep understanding of alien technology and a steady hand. Despite their initial fear, Hargrove and Doc found themselves growing more comfortable in Zephyr's presence. The alien was patient, wise, and genuinely interested in their well-being. As they worked, Zephyr shared stories of its people, an ancient civilization that had once thrived on Zoran 5. They were a race of scholars, explorers, and inventors, dedicated to unlocking the mysteries of the universe. But like all great civilizations, they had eventually fallen, leaving only their technology behind. The Sentinels were created to protect our legacy, Zephyr explained. But without us to guide them, they became rigid, inflexible. They see any who enter as threats, even those who come in peace. And you? Doc asked. Why didn't you stop them? I am but a caretaker, Zephyr replied. I do not have the power to control them, but I can guide those who seek to understand. Hargrove couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for Zephyr. It was a being with the weight of an entire civilization on its shoulders, yet it remained calm, composed, and focused on its duty. As the repairs neared completion, Hargrove and Doc found themselves reflecting on their journey. They had come to Zoran 5 expecting a simple mission, but they had found so much more: danger, mystery, and a connection to something far greater than themselves. Finally, the last Sentinel was repaired. Zephyr activated the creatures, and for the first time, they did not attack. Instead, they stood silently, their anger replaced by calmness. You have done well, Zephyr said, its voice filled with gratitude. The Sentinels are whole again, and our legacy is secure. Hargrove nodded, feeling a sense of accomplishment. So, what now? Now, Zephyr replied, it is time for you to receive your reward. Chapter 6. The knowledge. Zephyr led them to a hidden chamber deep within the monolith. The walls were lined with strange, glowing symbols, and in the center of the room was a massive crystalline structure. This, Zephyr explained, is the archive. It contains the collective knowledge of my people, our history, our discoveries, our secrets. Doc's eyes widened in awe. This is incredible. Hargrove was more cautious. And what are we supposed to do with it? Zephyr placed a hand on the crystal, and it began to pulse with light. Simply touch it, and the knowledge will be transferred to you. It will not overwhelm you. It will integrate with your consciousness, becoming a part of you. Hargrove hesitated. And we can leave afterward? Notrix? Zephyr's eyes softened. I have no reason to deceive you, Captain. You have proven yourselves worthy. You are free to leave whenever you wish. Hargrove exchanged a glance with Document. There was no denying the temptation. This was the opportunity of a lifetime. All right, she said finally. Let's do this. They approached the crystal, and as they placed their hands on its surface, they were engulfed in light. Their minds filled with images, sounds, and sensations. Visions of distant worlds, advanced technologies, and profound truths about the universe. It was overwhelming, but also exhilarating. The knowledge flowed into them like a river, filling their minds with understanding and clarity. When the light finally faded, they were left standing in stunned silence. I don't know what to say, Doc whispered. This is beyond anything I ever imagined. Hargrove nodded, her mind still reeling from the experience. Zephyr, thank you. Zephyr bowed its head. The honor is mine, Captain. You have preserved our legacy, and in return, I have shared it with you. Chapter 7. The return with the knowledge of the archive now a part of them. Hargrove and Doc made their way back to the eclipse. Zephyr accompanied them to the entrance of the monolith, where they found Joker and Ava waiting, their faces filled with relief. Cap. Doc, you're okay. Joker grinned, but his expression quickly turned serious. What happened in there? We were about to come looking for you. It's a long story, Hargrove replied, a smile tugging at her lips. Let's just say we've had a productive encounter. As they boarded the ship, Zephyr watched them with a sense of quiet pride. Remember what you have learned, it said, and use it wisely. We will, Hargrove promised. And if you ever need us again, you will know, Zephyr finished. Farewell, travelers. May your journey be filled with light. With that, the monolith's door closed, and Zephyr was gone. As the eclipse lifted off and ascended into space, Hargrove looked back at the planet below, a sense of fulfillment washing over her. They had come to Zuron 5 expecting a routine mission, but they were leaving with something far greater: knowledge, wisdom, and a connection to a civilization long lost to time. And as they set a course for home, Hargrove couldn't help but wonder what other secrets the universe held, waiting to be discovered. Epilogue. The legacy back on Earth. Hargrove and her crew became legends. The knowledge they had gained from the archive was shared with the world, leading to advancements in science, technology, and philosophy that would shape the future of humanity. But they never forgot the lessons they had learned on Zuron 5, the importance of curiosity, the value of knowledge, and the power of understanding. And as they continued their journeys through the stars, they carried with them the legacy of the ancient civilization they had encountered, a reminder that even in the vastness of space, there was always something new to discover and always something worth protecting.
Chapter 2. Echoes of the Past. The world had returned to its mundane routines, oblivious to the cataclysm that had been narrowly averted in the remote desert. But for those who had been there, the memories of that day were etched into their minds like scars. The soldiers had dispersed, reassigned to various corners of the globe, each carrying the burden of knowledge too dangerous to share. The commander, now stationed in a fortified military base deep in the heart of the desert, spent his days in a haze of bureaucracy, his nights haunted by the aliens' final, desperate stand. The government had done its job well, erasing any trace of the encounter from the public eye. But the commander knew that something had been left behind, something important. The alien had tried to communicate, to warn them, and the commander was determined to unravel the message before it was too late. Scene 1. The message. One night, while sifting through classified reports in his dimly lit office, the commander came across a file that had somehow escaped the purge, a file containing images of the alien's weapon. He recognized the intricate patterns carved into the metal, the same patterns he had seen on the alien's skin. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a message. Driven by a hunch, the commander arranged for the weapon to be brought to the base. When it arrived, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was holding something far more than a piece of alien technology. The weapon was strangely warm to the touch, and as he ran his fingers over the carvings, he felt a subtle pulse beneath the surface, like the heartbeat of a dormant entity. After days of intense study, the commander realized that the carvings weren't just decorative, they were a form of communication, a code that needed to be deciphered. He contacted a trusted friend, Dr. Evelyn Reed, a brilliant linguist who had once cracked the most challenging codes for the military. Her expertise in deciphering ancient and unknown languages was unmatched, and if anyone could decode the alien's message, it was her. Scene 2. The Unveiling. Dr. Reed arrived at the base, her curiosity piqued by the commander's cryptic request. She wasn't told what the artifact was, only that it was of utmost importance. When she first laid eyes on the weapon, she was struck by its otherworldly beauty, the way the light played off the carvings, casting shifting shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. As she began her work, Dr. Reed noticed something unusual. The carvings resonated with a frequency that was almost imperceptible, a low hum that seemed to vibrate through her very being. She worked tirelessly, days turning into nights as she slowly unraveled the alien code. Each symbol she deciphered brought her closer to understanding the message, but it also filled her with an increasing sense of dread. Then, late one night, it all clicked into place. The carvings weren't just a warning, they were a map. A map that led to a place deep within the desert, a place that had been hidden from human eyes for millennia. But there was more. The message also contained a dire warning. The rift that had opened in the sky was not a singular event. It was a gateway, one of many, and the true invasion had yet to begin. Scene 3, the hidden base. With the message decoded, the commander knew what he had to do. He quickly assembled a team of trusted soldiers, veterans of the first encounter who had proven their loyalty and bravery. They were to embark on a covert mission to the location indicated by the map, a place buried deep beneath the desert sands. The journey was arduous, the desert unforgiving as the team made their way to the coordinates. As they approached the site, the terrain began to change, the sands giving way to jagged rocks and steep cliffs. The air grew colder, the sky darker, as if the very earth was warning them to turn back. Finally, they reached the entrance, a massive ancient structure hidden within a canyon, its surface covered in the same carvings as the alien's weapon. The structure pulsed with a faint, eerie glow, as if reacting to their presence. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances, but the commander's resolve was unshakable. Whatever lay within, they had to discover it. As they ventured inside, the air grew thick with a strange energy, the walls vibrating with an unseen force. The deeper they went, the more they realized that this was not just a structure, it was a fortress, a bastion built by an ancient civilization to guard something of unimaginable power. Scene 4, the awakening. At the heart of the fortress they found it, a colossal chamber with a domed ceiling that seemed to stretch into infinity. In the center of the room stood a massive circular portal, dormant but unmistakably connected to the rift that had opened in the sky. The carvings on the walls and floor all converged on this point. Their purpose clear, this was the gateway to another world, a world where the true invaders were waiting. As the team approached the portal, the carvings began to glow brighter, the hum growing louder until it was a deafening roar. The commander realized too late that their presence had activated something. The portal began to stir, its surface rippling like water, and from its depths emerged a figure. A towering, nightmarish being, unlike anything they had seen before. The soldiers reacted instinctively, opening fire, but their bullets had no effect. The being raised a hand and with a simple gesture sent a shockwave through the chamber that knocked the soldiers to the ground. The commander struggled to his feet, his mind racing. They were not prepared for this. They had walked into a trap, and the enemy was already here. As the being advanced, the portal behind it began to expand, the rift widening to reveal glimpses of a dark, alien landscape. The commander knew that they had only moments to act. He grabbed the alien weapon, its carvings now blazing with light, and pointed it at the being. The weapon responded, emitting a beam of energy that struck the being, causing it to recoil. But it wasn't enough. The being quickly recovered, its eyes locking onto the commander with an intelligence that was cold and calculating. The portal continued to grow, the rift in the sky echoing the one before them. Time was running out. Scene 5, the escape. The commander shouted for his team to retreat, his voice barely audible over the roaring energy. They scrambled to their feet, fighting their way out of the chamber as the being pursued them. The fortress began to shake, the walls cracking and crumbling as the energy within grew unstable. The team raced through the corridors, the being hot on their heels. As they reached the entrance, the commander activated the weapon one last time, aiming it at the structure's supports. The blast caused the entire entrance to collapse, sealing the being inside, but not before it let out a final, rage-filled roar. The team emerged from the canyon, battered but alive. The fortress was buried, the rift in the sky slowly closing. But the commander knew that this was only a temporary victory. The gateway had been opened, and it was only a matter of time before the true invasion began. As they returned to the base, the commander and Dr. Reed began planning their next move. They had uncovered a secret that had been buried for centuries, a secret that could change the course of human history. The alien had sacrificed itself to give them this knowledge, and they would not let that sacrifice be in vain. But even as they prepared for what was to come, they knew that the real battle was yet to begin. The echoes of the past had warned them, but the future was still uncertain. And somewhere, deep within the shadows, the invaders were waiting.